At the State Mail Screening Center just outside the city, Officer Megan Collins tightened her jacket against the cold draft that always seemed to linger in the warehouse. Her partner, Rex, a sharp-eyed German shepherd with years of training in narcotics and contraband detection, moved beside her with calm precision. The air was filled with the hum of conveyor belts and the soft chatter of other officers inspecting packages destined for local correctional facilities. It was supposed to be a standard day. Megan had been through hundreds of inspections like this, boxes filled with books, clothing, snacks, and the occasional odd request from inmates hoping to bend the rules. Still, every package was a potential risk. That's why Rex was there, trained to detect explosives, weapons, and any unauthorized materials that could threaten prison security. They were nearly halfway through their shift when Rex stopped abruptly near a brightly wrapped box. The box stood out from the rest, covered in glittery wrapping paper with a big sticker that read "Happy Birthday." It looked more like something headed for a child's party than a prison cell. Megan gave it a glance, ready to move on, but Rex didn't. Instead, he lowered his body, tail stiff, ears perked forward. His nose twitched rapidly, and a low growl rumbled in his throat. Megan had worked with Rex long enough to know his signals weren't false alarms. When he growled, something wasn't right. "You've got something?" she asked, kneeling beside him. He responded with another low growl. His eyes locked on the package. Megan flagged down a technician. "We've got a hot one," she said, pointing to the box. The technician nodded and carefully lifted the package onto a steel examination table nearby. The label read, "To Carlos Devlin, Ridgeway State Correctional Facility." The sender's name was Ole Monroe, with a return address from a quiet suburban neighborhood. Nothing about it seemed unusual, at least not yet. The technician opened the box, revealing a perfectly decorated birthday cake inside. It was a round, double-layer vanilla cake with light blue frosting and colorful sprinkles. A simple plastic knife had been included in the package. The cake even had a sweet message in icing. "Hope your day is sweet." "Could be nothing," the technician muttered, but everyone was watching now. Rex remained still, nose aimed at the cake. "Cut it," Megan said. With a slow, careful motion, the technician slid the knife into the cake. The blade sank easily into the first layer of sponge, then stopped with a sudden, unexpected clink. Everyone froze. The technician widened the cut and gently pulled apart the layers. Inside the center of the cake, wrapped tightly in plastic and hidden within a cylindrical wax container, was something no one expected: a small, disassembled handgun. A barrel, trigger mechanism, and grip were stacked together like puzzle pieces, each carefully cleaned and packed to avoid detection. Megan leaned in, heart racing. "That's a gun." The room went silent. Rex looked up at her, tail wagging slowly. Megan gave him a soft pat. "Good boy." What had started as a routine inspection had just turned into a federal case, and it was only the beginning. The discovery of the hidden gun caused an immediate lockdown at the inspection center. Officers sealed off the area, while a forensic team was called in to preserve every detail. Megan Collins stood with her arms crossed as Rex sat by her feet, now calm but alert, sensing the tension in the air. The cake had been placed in an evidence container and wheeled into the secured examination room. The technicians worked quickly, photographing and documenting every inch of the birthday cake. It was clear now that this wasn't some amateur attempt at mischief. The weapon had been disassembled with surgical precision. The wax tube that housed it was odor-sealed and heat-resistant, making it nearly undetectable by standard X-ray equipment. But Rex's nose had picked up on something even the machines missed: a faint residue of gun oil. As officers reviewed the package details, all eyes turned to the shipping label. It had been mailed from a residential address in Shelby County under the name of Leila Monroe. A quick database check revealed she had no prior criminal record, no known links to gang activity, and had never visited Carlos Devlin, the inmate the cake was addressed to. But that made things more suspicious, not less. "She doesn't fit the profile," Megan said to Lieutenant Harper, who had arrived to supervise. "No connection to him, no flagged activity." Harper nodded, frowning. Maybe she was just the courier. The prison records confirmed that Carlos Devlin was no ordinary inmate. He had a long record of organized theft, known for building networks inside and outside prison walls. He had spent time in solitary for manipulating prison staff and had previously been caught with an unauthorized phone. If anyone had the brains to orchestrate something like this, it was him. Meanwhile, a team was dispatched to Shelby County to speak with Leila Monroe in person. When officers knocked on her door, she answered looking confused and startled. A soft-spoken woman in her early 30s, she seemed genuinely shocked when they showed her the images of the cake and the hidden gun. "I just baked it," she said. "Someone paid me." Her story unfolded slowly. She had been contacted through a private online listing where she sold custom cakes. The man who requested the birthday cake had used only a nickname, Ray. He had asked for the cake to be baked hollow in the middle so he could add a special surprise for his cousin's birthday. He paid her in cash, told her not to ask questions, and even provided the pre-printed shipping label. When asked why she agreed, Leila hesitated. "I needed the money," she admitted quietly. "I didn't know it was anything dangerous." Investigators weren't convinced. While her story seemed sincere, there were too many holes. No phone number, no contact information, just a string of untraceable messages and a single drop-off location for the cake. They seized her phone, her laptop, and took her in for questioning. Back at the mail center, Megan watched as the evidence was logged. The headlines were already spreading online. "Gun hidden inside birthday cake intercepted at prison mail center." She looked down at Rex, who had laid his head on her boot. "We're just getting started," she murmured. As the investigation deepened, the focus shifted squarely to Carlos Devlin, the inmate who was supposed to receive the cake. Known inside Ridgeway State Correctional Facility as a cunning and influential figure, Devlin had built a reputation not just for his past crimes, but for his ability to manipulate people and situations, even behind bars. Detective Ryan Jenkins, assigned to the case, reviewed Carlos's prison file with growing concern. Devlin had been convicted for a series of armed robberies and was currently serving a lengthy sentence. More troubling, his file noted multiple disciplinary actions related to possession of contraband and attempts to smuggle items into the facility. The birthday cake smuggling attempt fit his known pattern. The prison warden was quick to cooperate. "We take these threats seriously," she said. "Anything that could compromise security must be stopped." Surveillance footage from the prison's mail intake showed the package being delivered and logged. The cake had passed through several layers of inspection, none of which detected the hidden weapon, until it reached the screening center where Megan and Rex were stationed. It was a small victory, but a reminder of the constant risks correctional officers faced. Meanwhile, prison staff began interviews with inmates and employees. Rumors circulated that Devlin had been coordinating with someone on the outside, orchestrating plans to smuggle weapons and possibly plan escapes or attacks within the facility. Those claims raised alarm bells. Inside the prison, Devlin remained calm. He denied any knowledge of the cake or the gun. When questioned by investigators, he was smooth and collected, answering in carefully chosen words. "I don't know anything about a cake," he said with a faint smile. "You'll have to ask my cousin." That response sent investigators back to the sender's name on the package, Leila Monroe, who had insisted she was just the baker. But it seemed Devlin's cousin was more complicated than anyone first believed. Further digging revealed that Devlin and Leila had exchanged letters through the prison's approved mail system. Their correspondence appeared harmless at first, talk about family, birthdays, and everyday life. But code words and odd phrases hinted at secret communications. Detective Jenkins grew convinced that Devlin was using the cake smuggling attempt as part of a broader plan to gain access to weapons inside the prison. "He's testing the system," Jenkins said, trying to see what slips through. The prison administration increased security measures immediately, tightening inspection protocols for all incoming mail and packages. Every cake, every parcel, every letter was scrutinized with new technology and human eyes. Back at the mail center, Megan and Rex received a visit from the prison's security chief. Thanks to you and Rex, a dangerous plan was stopped before it could begin, he said. Megan smiled, but her mind was already racing to the next step. This isn't over, she said quietly. There's more we don't know. Outside the walls of the prison, reporters began to circle. The story of the gun baked inside a birthday cake was grabbing headlines across the country, capturing public attention with its bizarre mix of sweetness and danger. For Megan, Rex, and the entire team, the focus remained clear. Find out who else was involved, stop the network, and keep the prison and the community safe. After weeks of digging through phone records, social media accounts, and financial transactions, the investigation took a crucial turn when officers traced the shipping label back to a modest bakery on the outskirts of Shelby County. The small storefront was a quiet place, known for its homemade pastries and friendly staff. But behind the cheerful facade, the investigation team hoped to uncover more about the mysterious sender, Leila Monroe. Detective Ryan Jenkins, along with a team from the local sheriff's department, arrived at the bakery early on a cloudy morning. They were careful not to alarm the neighborhood as they asked to speak with Leila. The young woman greeted them with a mix of nervousness and confusion. I don't know anything about the gun, Leila insisted, her voice barely above a whisper. I just baked the cake. I didn't see what was inside. But the investigators weren't convinced. As they reviewed security footage from the bakery and surrounding areas, they saw Leila arriving with the cake box, then carefully sealing it and handing it over to an unknown man who waited outside. The man handed her cash and quickly disappeared into a parked car before driving off. Further checks revealed that Leila had been in contact with several burner phones over the past month, numbers that couldn't be traced to any registered user. The calls and messages came from a burner phone linked to a person on a federal watch list. That raised a red flag immediately. Under questioning, Leila began to reveal fragments of a larger story. She admitted that she had been contacted online through a private marketplace where she sometimes sold her custom cakes. A man who used the nickname Ray had reached out with a strange request: bake a hollow cake that could hold a surprise, deliver it to the prison address, and keep quiet about it. He said it was for his cousin, she said, tears welling up. He said it was important and he'd pay well. I needed the money. Leila's confession gave the investigation a new direction. If Ray was involved, the question was who he really was and what role he played in the smuggling ring. The officers pulled records for every contact, matching the nickname and cross-referenced the locations of calls and messages. They discovered that Ray was likely a key player coordinating smuggling operations between inmates and the outside world. He was careful to avoid direct contact with Leila and used multiple burner phones to keep his identity hidden. The team also found evidence that Ray had instructed others to prepare similar packages disguised as gifts for inmates. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of an organized attempt to flood the prison with illegal items. Megan and Rex, meanwhile, were back at the mail screening center, reviewing every package with renewed vigilance. The cake incident had opened their eyes to how creative smugglers could be, and how important Rex's role was in catching what machines missed. The smell of baking can mask a lot, Megan said. It's a clever cover, but Rex knows the truth underneath. The investigation was far from over. With Ray still on the loose and the smuggling network active, the law enforcement team prepared for the difficult work ahead, tracking down the mastermind and shutting down the entire operation. For Leila Monroe, the road was also uncertain. Though she claimed to be a reluctant participant, her cooperation was essential. The choice was clear: help bring the criminals to justice or face the consequences. As the sun set on the quiet bakery, the officers left with more questions than answers, knowing that behind the everyday routines lay a dangerous world of hidden threats, and that every discovery brought them one step closer to stopping it. Detective Ryan Jenkins and his team were piecing together what was quickly turning into a sophisticated smuggling ring. The discovery of the handgun baked inside a birthday cake was just the tip of the iceberg. Now, with Ray identified as a key player, they knew they were dealing with a well-organized group operating both inside and outside the prison walls. While the investigation expanded, agents monitored phone calls intercepted from several burner devices. These phones communicated in short, coded messages that suggested coordination of multiple packages and secret drop-off points. One phrase kept appearing, "sweet delivery." Megan Collins stayed focused on the mail sender operations, determined to catch any suspicious packages before they reached the prison. With Rex by her side, she developed new inspection techniques, combining the dog's keen nose with advanced scanning equipment. The team also discovered that the group was not only smuggling weapons, but also drugs, cell phones, and other prohibited items. The smuggling ring aimed to keep the prison's most dangerous inmates connected and armed, creating an ongoing security risk. Detective Jenkins worked closely with prison officials to cross-reference inmate visitor logs and mail records. They identified a handful of inmates who had unusual contact with people outside, including phone calls from untraceable numbers and unexplained packages. One name kept surfacing: Marcus Lane, an inmate with ties to organized crime and a reputation for running illicit activities from behind bars. Lane was already on the radar for previous smuggling attempts, but now evidence suggested he was a key partner to Carlos Devlin. Investigators placed Lane and Devlin under close surveillance inside the prison. They watched as both men carefully avoided guard scrutiny during recreation and mealtimes. Confidential informants within the prison hinted at plans for escalating smuggling attempts, including more sweet deliveries like the birthday cake. Meanwhile, outside the prison, efforts to track Ray intensified. Using advanced technology and coordinated law enforcement efforts, the team triangulated his location to a rundown apartment complex in a nearby town. Surveillance cameras captured a man fitting his description meeting with different couriers who handed off suspicious packages. One evening, a controlled delivery was arranged. Megan, Jenkins, and a tactical team waited as a courier approached the complex carrying a suspicious box. Rex sniffed the package, giving a clear alert. When officers opened the box, they found not a cake this time, but a batch of cell phones and drug packets, all carefully concealed. This successful bust energized the team. They realized they were dismantling a major smuggling pipeline, but they also knew Ray was elusive and unlikely to be caught without a thorough investigation. Back at the prison, Devlin and Lane appeared to be growing frustrated. Guards noticed increased tension between some inmates, hinting that the smuggling disruptions were having an impact. Megan looked at Rex, her faithful partner who had once again proven his unmatched skills. "Good job, Rex," she said softly. "We're making a difference." But the real challenge remained: catching Ray and breaking the network once and for all. Every package seized, every call intercepted, and every informant's tip brought them closer to shutting down the operation. The stakes had never been higher. The day started like any other at the State Mail Screening Center, but what happened next would make headlines across the nation. It was Megan Collins and her canine partner Rex's sharp noses and unwavering dedication that uncovered the hidden gun inside the birthday cake, a discovery that would unravel a criminal network and captivate the public's attention. Months into the investigation, after multiple busts and close calls, the breakthrough came unexpectedly. A suspicious package wrapped in festive birthday paper arrived again at the mail center, addressed to the same inmate, Carlos Devlin. Megan felt a familiar tension rise as Rex's keen nose locked onto the box. Unlike before, this time they were prepared. Rex moved slowly but deliberately around the package. His tail stiffened, and he let out a low growl. Megan nodded to the technician to bring the package over for inspection. The room filled with anticipation. The cake inside was more elaborate than the last one, decorated with bright blue frosting, edible glitter, and a cheerful, "Happy Birthday" message, written in elegant icing. The technician carefully sliced into the cake layer by layer. But this time, the smuggling method was even more sophisticated. Hidden inside was not just a disassembled gun, but a fully assembled compact pistol, cleverly concealed inside a hollowed-out section of the cake, wrapped tightly in plastic to avoid detection. The room fell silent, officers exchanging looks of disbelief. Megan crouched down beside Rex and whispered, "Good boy." The headline flashed instantly on news screens. K9 uncovers gun baked into birthday cake. What happened next made headlines. The discovery sparked a media frenzy. Reporters flooded the mail center, eager to tell the story of how a dog's sharp instincts and a team's vigilance stopped a dangerous weapon from reaching the prison. Interviews with Megan and Rex were broadcast nationwide, highlighting the crucial role of canine units in law enforcement. But beyond the media spotlight, the find was a game changer for the investigation. It confirmed suspicions that the smuggling ring was becoming bolder and more dangerous. The fully assembled gun meant that inmates could quickly arm themselves, increasing the risk of violence inside the facility. Law enforcement doubled down. Surveillance intensified on every contact linked to Carlos Devlin and Ray. Technology was deployed to monitor communications, and undercover agents infiltrated circles suspected of facilitating the smuggling operations. Inside the prison, security measures were ramped up. Officers conducted more frequent and thorough searches. Inmates faced stricter controls on mail-in visits. The atmosphere grew tense as the smuggling network struggled to maintain its grip. For Megan and Rex, the discovery was a proud moment, but also a reminder of the stakes involved. Every package could be hiding a threat, Megan said in an interview. That's why Rex and I take our job seriously. The story resonated with people everywhere, how a dog's keen sense of smell stopped what could have been a tragedy. It became a symbol of hope and determination. Behind the scenes, the investigation continued. The law enforcement team knew they had to act fast. The gun inside the cake was just one piece of a dangerous puzzle. With Ray still at large and the smuggling network active, the battle was far from over. Megan looked down at Rex, ready for whatever came next. "Let's keep going, boy," she said. And so, with every new package and every sniff, their mission continued, protecting the prison, the community, and the future. With the discovery of the gun baked into the birthday cake making national headlines, the pressure to catch Ray intensified. Detective Ryan Jenkins and the team had been chasing leads for weeks, but Ray remained elusive, always one step ahead. The breakthrough came when cybercrime specialists traced a series of encrypted messages sent between burner phones. Hidden in the code was a pattern that pointed to a small warehouse on the outskirts of town, where packages were prepared before being sent to the prison. Surveillance was set up immediately. Undercover officers watched the warehouse for days, observing a steady flow of couriers who picked up and dropped off suspicious packages. Among them, a man in his mid-30s, lean with sharp eyes, coordinated the operations. He was careful, using disguises and changing vehicles frequently to avoid detection. One evening, as a courier arrived with a fresh batch of packages, officers moved in to make arrests. The man tried to flee but was quickly caught. To everyone's surprise, the man identified himself as Raymond Ray Carter, a small-time criminal with no direct ties to the inmates, but a talent for smuggling and logistics. During interrogation, Ray admitted to being the mastermind behind the smuggling ring. He explained how he exploited the prison mail system's weaknesses, using creative methods like hollow cakes and disguised packages to get contraband inside. "I didn't want anyone to get hurt," Ray said, his voice steady but tired. "I was just trying to make a living and help some friends." Despite his claim, the evidence against him was overwhelming. Ray's phone records, surveillance footage, and the seized packages painted a clear picture of a man deeply involved in criminal activity. Investigators learned that Ray had been recruited by inmates like Carlos Devlin and Marcus Lane to manage smuggling operations outside prison walls. His role was critical, organizing couriers, buying supplies, and ensuring packages went undetected. At the prison, news of Ray's capture spread quickly. Guards reported that Devlin and Lane seemed tense, aware that their network was unraveling. Megan Collins and Rex received commendations for their part in the case, especially for the pivotal discovery of the gun in the cake. Rex, as always, remained humble, content to wag his tail and enjoy a well-earned rest. With Ray in custody, law enforcement focused on dismantling the remaining parts of the network. Other couriers were identified and arrested, while prison officials tightened mail inspections to prevent future attempts. Yet, the investigation revealed how deep and complex smuggling rings could be, fueled by desperation and greed. Ray's story also reminded everyone that sometimes the line between right and wrong isn't always clear. He was a man who made dangerous choices but wasn't a hardened criminal mastermind. His actions had consequences, but his cooperation helped bring down a larger threat. As the case wrapped up, Megan reflected on the journey. From a suspicious birthday cake to a national headline, the investigation had tested every skill she and Rex possessed. But it also proved the power of teamwork, dedication, and the remarkable instincts of a canine partner. The smuggling ring was no more. The prison was safer, and the community could breathe a little easier. Yet Megan knew this was just one battle in a long fight to keep dangerous items out of prisons. With Rex by her side, she was ready for whatever challenge came next. With Raymond Ray Carter behind bars and the smuggling network dismantled, the prison and surrounding community breathed a collective sigh of relief. The story of the gun baked into a birthday cake had captured public imagination, but for those on the front lines like Megan Collins and Rex, it was more than a headline. It was a testament to vigilance, courage, and teamwork. In the weeks following the arrests, prison security protocols underwent a major overhaul. Mail screening centers introduced cutting-edge scanning technologies alongside canine units, ensuring that no suspicious package would slip through again. Training programs for officers emphasized new techniques for detecting creative smuggling attempts. Megan became a mentor, sharing her experiences with fellow handlers and officers across the state. Rex, now a local hero, attended ceremonies and demonstrations, charming crowds with his disciplined skills and friendly demeanor. Carlos Devlin and Marcus Lane faced new charges related to the smuggling operation. Their influence inside the prison diminished as guards cracked down on illicit activities. Both men appeared subdued during court hearings, their carefully constructed networks dismantled piece by piece. Meanwhile, Leila Monroe's cooperation with law enforcement earned her a second chance. She enrolled in community programs aimed at helping those exploited by criminals rebuild their lives. Though she'd been a small player in a dangerous game, her courage to speak up changed the course of the investigation. The media continued to spotlight the case, often focusing on the unlikely heroes, a dog and his handler who sniffed out danger when no one else could. Megan sometimes found it strange how a small act could ripple outwards, inspiring people and reminding them that even the most ordinary jobs could have extraordinary impact. Behind the scenes, the team stayed vigilant. Smuggling rings adapted, finding new ways to challenge prison security. But the lessons learned from the cake and the gun made everyone stronger, more prepared. For Megan, the journey had been personal and professional. She thought about Rex, now older but still sharp, and the many packages they would screen together. "We protect more than just walls," she said quietly one morning. "We protect lives." The story had a lasting effect on the community, too. Parents talked to their children about making good choices. Prison reform advocates used the case to push for safer facilities. Law enforcement agencies built stronger partnerships, recognizing that fighting crime was a shared responsibility. In the end, the gun baked into a birthday cake was more than just a criminal attempt. It was a turning point. It showed how ordinary people and a loyal dog could stand up against danger with courage and heart. As Megan watched Rex play in the yard, she smiled. Together, they had made a difference, and together, they would face whatever came next.